All right, hi everyone. We'll get started as people continue to trickle in here. Thanks for joining us tonight for this USC comedy presentation of Bobo Touch. We're going to be joined with the creators Brian Bonz and Mike Rizzo for a Q&A. That's going to be moderated by JD Connor, professor of cinema and media studies here. I think that's kind of all I got to introduce it. But we're excited to have everyone. And for the Q&A portion at the end, I want to remind everyone what we do is we give you the opportunity to come up and ask your question directly. So type your question into the Q&A box. And then if you don't want to be brought up, if you just want JD to read your question for you, then just specify that when you ask it. Otherwise, I'll bring you up to the panel and you can either turn on your camera or not, and then go ahead and ask your question and engage with the filmmakers. So thanks so much again for being here. And with that, JD, take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Let's get everybody on as quickly as possible. Let's get both Brian and Mike out here. These are the two guys behind Bobo Touch. If you're here, I'm sure you know, unless you have joined in because we have propagandized you to come from the internet famous class, in which case we will provide you with a little bit more background. Mike and Brian are lifelong friends. I don't know what the duration is, but very long term. And tonight we're going to be talking about their work, the grind, as it were, a very interesting version of the kind of, of the sort of put together comedy lifestyle that one follows. And we'll be doing that by showing a bunch of shorts, some of their work interspersed throughout the evening. So Mike and Brian, welcome. How long have you known each other?
So yeah, we've known each other since 12 years old. So
okay.
we've met in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, in the Bay Ridge Towers, in the backyard, actually.
Yeah, and it all started for our love for the movie The Crow, featuring Brandon Lee, one of our favorite actors in this generation. And so we thought it was a good idea to remake The Crow with our parents' camcorders, but we fought over who was going to play Brandon Lee. So we decided we'll both play Brandon Lee's part, and we counted how many scenes the crow is in the movie. We divided it in half. There'll be a fat crow, a skinny crow, and the rest of history. Now we are dads. We are filmmakers. Mike, has done a ton of commercials, and I also do a lot of music, and we've really infused the music and film side of things, inspired by, other New York staples like, the Beastie Boys and so on, and even the Jerky Boys, like sprinkling on the DNA into our ecosystem. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think like we always I was played in Brian's band for forever. I played drums as well, and drums and editing go together. So it was just kind of a natural progression that we did music to start, and then we were like, oh my god, we love making, we love remaking our favorite movies. So I took the reins of editing, and we were like, we should just do our own movies and do our own sketches. And we've always had this kind of absurd sense of humor growing up.
1995 to 2021.
Yeah.
There we go. And that absurd sense of humor, for those who haven't seen the stuff yet, there's, as you know, there's a Mighty Boosh kind of tendency through it. There's a lot of what I think of as sort of classic Bay Ridge, laconic, on the street kind of humor, where it's not the dozens, but you're being given an enormous amount of grief, particularly as we'll see in the garage scenes in some of the Bobo Touch Helpline things. One of the things that's fascinating about the work, and we're going to start with these, for those who are new to this, we're going to start with some of the longer pieces and not the earlier sort of mock PSAs that you did, but that the pieces are deeply embedded in that, I want to call it that New York outer borough administrative culture. Like, you got to know guys who work at the MTA. You got to know principals. You got to know all of these sort of it's not about the Manhattan power elite. It's not about people on the far edges. It's about the people who make the city go, and you get them right in front of you. And so those PSAs, do you want to tell us a little bit about that and like how that, like, you know, that seemed to be the place where the style started to coalesce, at least when I was looking at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. In what Mike was saying earlier, we kind of like really wanted to keep the music aspect of it. And I noticed as I was taking the train a lot, and Mike takes the train every morning to the city from Brooklyn into Manhattan, that people weren't letting people off the train when they wanted to get on the train. And so we kind of put this, VHS style kind of music video together, and the Village Voice wrote about it and a few other people. And we're like, what is this? Because this isn't a film, but it's a weird little, it's got a message. So it is a PSA, but it's also a video. And, we could play with other musicians and be serious, but we're also having fun and not being serious in this moment, which is great. Because then the sky is the limit in that sense. Like, right, we can be as silly as we want. We can sing, we can do whatever. And so we just called a lot of our friends in, and we started to do that as different parts of issues that would go on in Manhattan with the subway system, or just going on in the city. And we would really kind of try to research them before they would happen or when they were happening to be time sensitive. And then from there, we kind of took it into, let's formulate this kind of web series about us helping these strange stories within the city. But it really and still is kind of something we love to do, is having these fun PSA videos of dropping a message about personal space, whether if it's like even just like crazy subway creeps on the train and what to do if you need help, or just kind of making way for pregnant people. I remember one time my wife was trying to get off the train, and they didn't let her get off the train, and she was pregnant. And it was like this kind of crazy fiasco by Atlantic Avenue, downtown Brooklyn, where there's that many people here, and it's chaos. So why not try to, instead of be so upset about it, find some joy and bring light and let other people know that this stuff is going to happen when you're on the train here. People don't care. It's an interesting experience.
Yeah, and I think like all of us, like, we know all of these PSAs we pulled from real experiences. Like, we kind of love the underground, we love creatures, and we're just fascinated by people and scenarios and things that we see all the time. And the texting and walking video where we play these like kind of overt hipster types, because we used to go to band practice in Williamsburg before it was gentrified. So we've kind of seen the whole change from like, complete like, desolate, crazy Williamsburg to this like Disneyland. So it's kind of poking fun in a fun way, you know what I mean? Because we're from here and we love it. So it's kind of like this, our love for it comes through in the work,
Right. So we've got, at that point, we've got sort of the key pieces, right? We've got music and rhythm. We've got a kind of documentary investment in the city, and particularly the city as it's changing. And then this commitment to surrealist humor, which all of those are sort of independent. And then they're all going to start to merge in the Helpline video series.
Exactly.
And so we don't go too long before we get to some of that. Why don't we talk about the first one? Do you want to set it up, or do we want to just go in?
This one was just something that we've always been brewing. Like, we had this idea for a while about, like, from the PSAs spawned, like, we should do this Helpline. Like everyone's coming to us with these PSA topics, and like, so we were just like, we should start our own Helpline. And that's kind of like the episode 1 that you will see is kind of like a pilot episode in a surreal version of it.
Great. And we're going to start to see some of the things that we'll want to talk about afterwards, like the character work and the really high production values for something that's, a short, but not an official short, whatever I don't know what we want to call it, an episode, and some other things. So now would be a good time to kick off the first one, and we'll try to mute ourselves for the next about 6.5 minutes. Okay, so that's your pilot. And like all pilots, I'm sure it has a long gestation period, but one of the things that's striking about it is, again, the production values. car scenes, not easy, not cheap, probably not entirely legal. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about the chase, because you know, it's tight.
Yeah, that's great. So clearly inspired by a French Connection type, because that's where we're from, Bensonhurst Bay Ridge. But I think Brian and I were always like, we have this thing where we were kids. We're like, one of these days we're gonna do a car scene, or we're gonna throw you through a glass window. And this was just we were just kind of obsessed with action. We wanted to like finally do this action scene, with a nod to some of our favorite movies, obviously. So the car scene, we're like, yeah, we could do this in like half a day. And then like our cinematographer, our cinematographer at the time, this guy Vadim, was like, you guys need like 3 days to do this car chase. Like, you guys are out of your fucking minds.
I thought he was absolutely crazy.
Well, like we've done this before in like half a day, like just like run and gun. So we totally underestimated how much goes into a car chase scene. So that alone took 3 days to film, just that sequence.
And and presumably it also involved a lot of favors, right? I mean, that's one of the things.
Yes. We got the Dodge Charger from that looked like the detective car, and we, you know, from Mike's mom's boyfriend, and we got the siren we bought online, and then we had a few other extras, and we just didn't, you know, in your head you just think it's going to be some other sequence and scene that's easy, but you don't realize that, like, even putting a GoPro on right by the tire as it's driving makes a big difference, as cheesy as that sounds, right?
Like, no, it's like I said,
you just see
it's
tight. Sped up and like there's yelling.
We typically have a pretty tight shot list, but for the car chase scene, we were just like, we had it all in our heads, and we didn't properly map out. Like, we had it mapped out, but we didn't have it mapped out the right way to be shot accordingly, with the changing sunlight and the changing angles, and then just like everyone, it was just. So we needed to go back for 2 extra days to get all the pickup shots, you know?
There were no permits involved, which nobody's allowed to repeat after this call. I'm just kidding, but I'm not. No, but it was one of those things that we did very guerrilla. I mean, the cops were driving all around and never stopped us. We have
really good luck with that. Typically we have permits, but this was one we just went and did it. And having a cop light in the street's pretty bad, but you know, we have good luck with that stuff.
Yeah. So much less on the edges of the law would be like the garage scenes.
Yes.
Take us through the decision to put the Helpline in a garage so they can get made fun of by these mechanic characters who will recur.
Yeah. So I think Mike and I were always fascinated by the boom of co-working spaces. In big cities, and also as parents, we were like, how about the side hustle happens and we rent a desk at, you know, this gas station in Sunset Park. Like, I've seen so many hybrid buildings where they've converted the first floor of an office to now more of a lounge, and you get a membership. So it was really like, let's take that whole experience and make it the dingiest as possible. And so we just approach these random guys in our neighborhood who we still don't know if they love or hate the way we utilize their space, but we do know they've watched it.
They watched it and they were kind of indifferent. They're like, yeah, that's cool. They're like, okay.
We know who you are by the third episode. We're like, hey, the owner's not here. Can we do this? But it was really all about the beauty of and I'm sure we'll say this a lot tonight, was really, really like kind of utilizing local spaces, building partnerships with the community. I mean, we've passed by since we were kids at this place. It's like a Sunoco gas station. And you know, they let us come in always after to shoot right when they close.
And it's also just like an interesting, to me, it was like a very interesting, like gritty, shitty, like the interior is just like a aesthetic dream. And we had the vision for those characters too. The one guy's Brian's brother, Mike, and this other guy that is actually Brian's ex-boss, the other mechanic. So we just like had this idea of them being these like eccentric kind of like mechanics that are like kind of our bosses who could like encapsulate our dipshit qualities, you know?
Yeah. But at the same time, like there's a way to do that scene where it's just the character work, right? Where it's just the location and the character. And then the thing that seems characteristic, and we'll see this in the other pieces, is that as the two of you leave, or the dumb versions of the two of you leave, then it launches into this inexplicable, not to be returned to music video moment. And then we come back. And it's that like, it's still it's still a comedy, but it's that tonal shift that seems characteristic and that really comes to the fore starting in the second one. Like it seems like it locks in for you guys about how this series is going to go then. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'm right.
Yeah. And are we talking about the next episode?
No, I wasn't going to jump us into the next episode yet, but I was just this like, it's that is like on the day when you're shooting in the garage, you've got these outsized characters. And then at some point, either before or in post, you're like, and what we're going to do when we leave is not walk out the door, but we're going to drop in, titles, and it'll go music video, and then we'll have the guys do their thing, the song and dance routine.
Yeah, I think for that we were just so in love with the PSA stuff that we've done, and I think that's got the biggest response, and I think that we love creating these catchy hooks.
Yeah.
And I think the messaging behind those hooks is what got us into the Helpline thing. So we were like, we have to fuse this into this world of this Mighty Boosh meets Helpline like idea. Where everything we're educating people or we're like telling the story through song is kind of the device that we wanted to always kind of weave in and out of these ideas.
And in those moments, we wanted to take those specific key changes or emotions that were happening and just put them in a chorus micro little song. So it would kind of stick in your head, and have this little hook and then bring it back at the end. And so for this one in particular, we were like, oh, this is how we'll kind of end and, put this sort of service out there, and the drums will kind of erupt in and they would be dancing. But we do record and write those, prior, and we use Ableton Live, and we kind of just infuse that and kind of put that into the script.
Yeah. The other thing I got to talk about is tummy dipping.
Oh man,
that's the brilliance of Brian, because we've had this again, a reoccurring character where we're like, you have to rub we have to get you to like rub your tummy, and like obviously we're obsessed with bagels. We're from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, so like we're like, we have to tie in this Brooklyn culture, to where we're from. So that's how the tummy dipping came about. We're like, we got to finally do this our morning. We always get a coffee. It's just the process of like the typical New York, Brooklyn thing. And we're like, what's going to be the best, funniest way of doing that, like, bagel thing? And then, like, Brian wrote the song, and we're like, this is perfect. Let's,
I had this idea.
Yeah.
Like, imagine walking to any boss you've ever had's office, and that's what they were doing. Like, they were literally, like, eating their breakfast, dipping, like, rubbing it on their stomach and dipping it into coffee. And I was like, all right. So we connected with this local councilman who, he's great. This guy, Justin Brandon, he used to be in a hardcore band, and he's a local city councilman here in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. And he hooked us up with this realtor's office, and they were so annoyed because we just kind of took this guy's cubicle over. And and just to even rewind a little bit, we had someone else scheduled to play that actor, that role, that character, and he called me at 8 a.m. and told me that his mom was sick. So we weren't, like, we had other actors showing up, we had an early shoot. So instantly I looked at my wife and I was like, I gotta get into makeup and be this other person and bring pillows. Like, holy shit, we still gotta do this. So I play those two different characters. And so I remember them, like, the staff at the realtor office, looking at me through these glass cubicles as I kept dipping the bagel.
Yeah, and the song was on for like 5 hours. Yeah.
Right.
We kept playing on tummy dipping, and we kept doing it. close-ups, and yeah, it was just kind of, it all stemmed from this idea of like, holy shit, imagine like that classic, you walk into your boss's office and see something that like they're doing something that just two things that just don't work, and that's their thing, or they're having fun with. And so it was just such a weird thing. They were so annoyed with us by the end and wanted us to leave. And I remember us, I think, not blocking out the guy's family portrait behind me.
Yeah, so we kind of shot around. We just kind of did it quickly to get out of there. But I mean, I think in the end we were happy with it, but we had to kind of like speed it up to get out of the office to just like wrap it up, you know, because I think when you pull so many favors, you got to just like be mindful of everybody, you know.
Right, and it's a great office with all the with all the New York stuff around, and anyway. Yeah. So at this point, you know, we've talked. So let me take it back. So we just had the comedy festival, and one of the things we talk about there is sort of what the hustle is to, you know, sort of break. And there are obviously many different versions of that. So Matt Besser was talking about the improv version, and we've had like people talk about the stand-up version. And I was, you know, recently listening to an Anthony Jeselnik podcast, and he was talking about like the closing of the ArcLight out here, and he used to work at the ArcLight. And the thing about that was that the stand-ups all wanted to work during the day, so they'd be free in the evening to go up, and all the actors wanted to work in the evening, so they'd be free during the day to audition, and it was a kind of like perfect symbiosis. What's the like the landscape of the day job and the side hustle and whatever around the time that you start making these for you all, just so we can get a sense of how it fits into, you know, a full, you know, glorious dad life, as it were?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of it happens like in the evening hours. You know, obviously we've done certain like PSAs that have you know, got attention of like the local, you know, Pix 11 News here, and you know, New York One, and it really all just kind of boils down to when we're out and about, you know, with like a run and gun situation where somebody's filming, and we're like, all right, we're gonna do this. We have some props and a few big like duffel bags or book bags, and you know, everybody's caffeinated, and we work with just a lot of people that are like, you know, excited to collaborate, and also just really like, it's all about capturing the moment. And sometimes there's other people capturing it in the city, which is like such a great backdrop here, right? There's like so many like crazy people and tourists here. So we really kick things up a lot on the weekends, or, you know, late at night when the city, like, you know, kind of post rush hour here with a lot of the subway traffic.
Yeah, I think it's like we're always like, Brian and I text probably more than our wives. So I think we're always like after hours, you know, we both have day jobs. So I think it's like literally, you know, every night after 8 p.m. when the kids are down, and then weekends, we're always weekends. We do a lot of stuff together. Yeah. So you know, obviously it's all around our day jobs. But yeah, we always try to find time to always produce stuff together, you know.
Yeah,
it's hard.
And what were those at this point? Like, just so people know, like, you know, because nobody's doing this by waiting tables anymore. Like, that's just not that's not the balance. What is it for you all, or was it at this point?
So right now I'm an editor. I work in commercials and advertising, and Brian works at BandLab, at a company that makes, you know, products for, you know, instruments. So we're both in the music and film world. And then, you know, whenever there's time, we always just write together, and we always produce content, and we're always texting each other with ideas like, yo, we should go film that next weekend. And like, we always just try to, like, you know, like find that window of time. Yeah. But it's really hard with children. It's hard to make that happen, but we always try to find, you know, at least a half a day or a few hours to do it.
You schedule it in. And, you know, in the backtrack too, Mike went to SVA, and you know, and that's what his core focus was for editing, and really put that to practice working at, you know, where he's at, and all the rehearsals and projects he's worked on. And for me, it's just really evolving music production, touring, playing festivals like Coachella. And it really is so interesting when you start to see people who are musicians that are interested in film, and vice versa. And it's a great world, and that they mix often, where there's a lot of music interests with actors or producers or directors and film composers even. And so it's such a great time that we're lucky to have that combination of our friends know how to kind of visually shoot things, but also what sound cues we're going to throw in, how he's going to edit. Mike sort of shoots to edit. And, on top of that, we also have a ventriloquist style service. I'm just kidding. But it is ultimately really being interested in, making the time to do stuff. And, we could easily be going to sleep or reading some fucking awesome book. But we're out there, getting stares at people at 2 a.m.
Yeah, we try to always find the extra hours to just either go out and film or just write together, even if it's just for, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. We always try to write stuff down, do stuff together.
No, and I think, part of what I'm trying to get at here is, our audience is going to be largely students. And so it's, there's there's that royal road path, which nobody gets to follow. And then there are these utterly unpredictable versions. And it's always interesting to hear, how they get put together.
My philosophy was always you just have to keep doing what you love doing, and things will happen. And as long as you're passionate about it, you just keep putting cool stuff out there, and just, who knows what's going to happen.
Cool. All right. I don't want to go too far between episodes. Episode 2 is going to roll up here. Bushwick Tarzan.
My favorite.
Your favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to know before we watch it, or we can talk about it after?
Yeah, we can talk about it after.
Okay. All right. So let's do Ep 2.
Cool.
Bushwick Tarzan. All right. You said it was your favorite. It's certainly got new stuff. It's got scene transitions. It's got VFX. Well, let's talk about the VFX, because we talked about the car stuff in episode 1. That's clearly some filmmaking, pushing the limits. Tell us about our talking frog, our face morph, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for that we were we kind of wanted to jazz this one up a little more. We were like, oh my God, the first one was so fun. It was going over well. People loved it. But we wanted to give this one a little more style and a little more aesthetic to it. So my brother Jay did the transitional graphics. We had this place, again, I work in commercials, so I had some connections to the mill in New York that did the frog. And I'm very lucky to have them, because that was all whenever they had downtime, they kind of chipped away at creating the frog. But I think with the goal of this one was just to kind of amp it up, elevate it, to elevate everything, elevate the writing, elevate the story. And yeah, we wanted to have these fun transitions like you see on Broad City, like you see in Billy on the Street, just these just kind of more engaging kind of pacing to it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the goal on that one. And plus the mythical guy of Bushwick Tarzan.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Let's talk about him, and then we'll come back and talk about the writing. So tell me, I feel like from the naked cowboy in Times Square to Bushwick Tarzan is just one, it's one step, but maybe there's more than one.
I'll let Brian, because that was all Brian's coworker, Brian, that started as an inside joke that kind of festered into a real thing.
Yeah, well, exactly what you said. There are these, personalities that we have, and so grateful to have here in New York, like the Naked Cowboy, and just these strange videos, right, that we see. But we wanted to channel this guru, next level, modern day person that might be swinging from fire escapes, but acting like Tarzan, and I really still I want to make a children's series. No, but it is that kind of idea of this person and character exists in New York, but is kind of infuses the I do yoga, I also do 7 other things. Right. And but this episode is kind of them wanting to break out of their characters. So The actor was actually a co-worker of mine, and really got inspired by the idea when I saw them on roller skates, and hung out a lot, saw where like they lived in Bushwick, and knew that neighborhood. There's so many great parts, and very similar to Sunset Park. And I was like, we just keep joking about it, like we have to make this Bushwick Tarzan, like this character
it was just an ongoing joke for like 2 years. We're like,
yeah,
you have
like
this
this
image,
era.
we love your image, like we're fascinated with what you're doing. Like let's film this scenario with you one day. And like it was like talked about for years, and we're like, we're gonna go do
It was
this
a
movie
little
one
cold
day.
when we
Yeah,
shot it, to be fair. It was
yeah,
kind of like we were hoping, we were almost at the nice part of spring where we are right now in New York, I
yeah,
believe. So it was kind of like, I remember those rooftop scenes and street scenes and shooting really
yeah.
early in the morning when it's brisk here. It was kind of tough, but everybody was really vibing out. And in the intro scene, our good friend Reese, who wore the hospital,
Hmm.
who played Cindy, uh, we texted her maybe 6 hours before we shot that at like 6 in the morning, and she showed up. And we're like, hey, we need to get you, I guess, in underwear and run in this gown. and,
Well,
and and we ordered like all these frogs from Amazon, these like big like little frogs that we use as a reference, which
Yeah.
Mike was talking about earlier with like the visual effects artists, like, hey, are these, which one should we use? And and backtrack too, like it's always cool to propose these things to people who work in those fields, because sometimes they might want to do something like this, because they're always like doing something else, so they're excited to do a
Yeah.
weird creature or a weird request or like a bloody eye, whatever. They're really always into that. So I think never feel afraid to explain your visual ideas.
Yeah, because we partnered with people at the mill who had like some favors that were like they had some people who really were learning the ropes of animation and CG. So they were the ones who built the frog for us.
that's great. Your friend not only showed up when it was cold in the morning, but I believe she ran barefoot, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Yes.
that's a special person.
Yeah, it was too cold. It was too cold for sure to do
Yeah.
that.
I did want to ask a little bit about the writing, because one of the things that seems different between the first and the second, or a slight evolution, is that there seems to be in this one always one more joke, and sometimes it's the throwaway line, like just a complete non sequitur. Sometimes it's the same thing one more time, which gives it that like you and I both know this is written kind of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of your writing, maybe over the three of them? Because it does, a lot of times people want to come on these Q&As and they say, oh, I've always been great. I was just waiting to be discovered. But like, there's also the like actual moments when certain things click. And it seems like here that pacing shifts a little bit for you all.
Yeah, I think with this one we knew, I think we knew with the idea, because we kind of like pitched it around to a few people. I think we knew that this one had more appeal to it than the first one. Like the first one, unfortunately, was just the pilot. We're not downplaying it, but we knew this was more of a concept, more of like, this just seemed like people were more interested in it. So I think that kind of forced us in a way to spend more time on the jokes. And Brian will take you through more of the writing. But yeah, I think we just spent a lot more time on the script, and we wanted things to land better. We wanted it to be funnier. We wanted it to be punchier.
Yeah.
I think we just paid way more attention to this episode, as shitty as that sounds, than the first one.
No, we're talking about like how you put together something like this, and
yeah,
I do want to
yeah.
remind everybody, like whatever, how much you were paying attention to other things, like you drove that car right around the subway station.
Yeah.
Without stunt drivers. Anyway, Brian, go ahead and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I hear you, and I think for this, we wanted to really, I don't know, kind of tap into the weirdness of Portlandia again. What you were saying about scene transitions, and We love that show, and like multiple characters, and like even the future of our future, like who would ever see that at a school? And there are some sort of lines that we love, like sort of like, wait, I just said that, you just said that, and that's kind of what's happening in the school thing. And even the Twink Cost, that was like right before that. I think that we shot that before Trump was going to be,
it was right before he was
the Wolfgang Mexico High. And that actor that we casted knew Principal Polly Peppers and that actress, and it was such a great connection, coincidentally. And he had worked with us previously on a short where I played a subway rat on the train, and Mike, spray tanned his body orange and wrapped with a gold chain around him. And people were taking pictures of us acting like we were famous or something, but that's what's great about the city. We just act like we. But back to Bushwick Tarzan, it really was trying to create a little movie also too, like this little storyline. Like, can we create this web series where each episode is like this standalone case? And this one, we started with this accident with a psych ward patient out. She's like, looking for her pet frog, and then Bushwick Tarzan comes down and saves the day. And we went to shot. We shot that in location in Bushwick. We used a friend's apartment to charge camera batteries. We fought with the parks department.
But we've already got, we get beef between the Bobo Touch guys and Bushwick Tarzan right from the beginning. And
I was gonna say, I think we figured out the structure in this one, which was I think
we're on the wrong side of the territory. There are other neighborhood heroes.
Yeah, like you kind of come right into it, you know what I mean? And you're already into the problem, you're into the conflict, you're into the issue, and like it's less about the gas station and more about what's going on in the city. And I think that's why this one shines more than the first in a way, is because like you just get thrown into the action, and it's just, I think it's just a better structure from a story aspect, All
right, so we've got the third one, Kisser, coming up. We're back on the subway, and we now fill out the garage cast of characters. The co-working space stuff begins to pay off a little bit more. Anything else we need to know before we watch that? I hate to be like cranking through them, but like we've got.
No, I think what I will say is that, again, this is like us being like Brian. We tried. We actually auditioned some people for this, and we were like, Brian has to play this role. I mean, it's just because Brian, I think, is the resident actor. When it comes to the weird, I think Brian's really good at that. So
I think the only thing we need to preface before watching is that this idea originated one night when I was incredibly stoned on the train ride home, and I got scared, and this is kind of what happened.
Nice. All right, so let's do episode 3, and we'll be back here in 8 minutes. Mike.
Hey, what's up?
Pop back in. Serious Mark David Chapman vibes from Brian in this. Let's talk about the character first.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think that turtleneck has been at my parents' house for like since I was in high school, and it never really fit. And it's still there, and I was like, I gotta like stretch this out. And I was like riding on the train home one night, and I was like, everybody is so vulnerable in New York City. Like some people like fall asleep on the train after work, and they're just passed out. Like, and I'm like, oh my, like it's it's very hypnotic. Cool, go to sleep. But it's also like there's that trust, like, oh my God, what could happen to you? And so I was like, I always think of water bugs and crazy weird stuff growing up. And I'm like, how about this person that would come and kiss everyone and didn't care who they were? And it's definitely like a dark character. And I was like, this is so weird. And it was always festering, like, oh, and if in his sort of protocol was like, if you slept with your mouth open, you'd open your mouth instead of a kiss. So very dark. And there's this city has been the backdrop for like the Son of Sam and all these weird, sad, crazy history. So it was kind of channeling in like what you said, and really like that dark horror story. Unfortunately, there are weird cases that happen on the train.
Yeah.
And not to make fun of those, this was more just of like, how could we make this like bug collector be this weird, strange superhero, but dark, fucked up thing?
Yeah, I think we also have a little bit of like a horror. We kind of love a lot of horror movies, and we kind of love that. We kind of love that dark element to it. So I think we were like, let's
make a weird twisted.
Yeah, we're like, let's make a twist in this one. Yeah.
Right, but as dark as it is, like the culmination isn't some Bernie gets like vengeance. It's a BlackBerry shrink ray that sends him back to prison. Like it that sort of like retroactively lightens all of the like seriously creepy stuff that's come before.
Yeah, and I think that was like what we wanted. We wanted it to be a very lighthearted ending. We wanted it to be like something funny and kind of like futuristic.
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time on the ending, like figuring out what was the best kind of like shrinking device, like way to tell that story. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
as absurd as it sounds,
Nicholas, who plays Bruno, he's such a tall, incredible, character actor.
Yeah.
And to have this out of date, technology with his leather coat and this sort of Ghostbusters Honey I Shrunk the Kid moment with this creep. He just really wanted to put like him down to size where all the roaches that he was also using now could attack him, and sort of like that's sort of the end of the kisser, because now he's the same size as the bugs, which we kind of it's very unknown, but really just kind of tying that, you're right, satire into it, and pulling in that Ghostbusters shrinking these love effects.
So we do have one more to show, but like at this point there's like, you've got the episodes, you've got plan, you've got a way to do this on the evenings and weekends, and then like for all of us, presumably COVID screws that all up. So and now you have podcast as well, but like, do you want to talk about like how you handle the disruption? Because it's one thing if you're whatever a CBS dramedy to be like, okay, so we'll figure this all out, and we have infinite money to solve it, and in your cases, of course, like that's not been the plan. So are you banking things that you've written? Are you like planning to come back to this? Or are you using this as a chance to pivot? Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, well, once the pandemic hit, we had the podcast idea for probably at least a year before the before the pandemic, that we've kind of wanted to explore and get it out there. So then once the pandemic happened, I think it was like an easy thing to pivot to that, because we were all indoors and it gave us a chance to really figure out what we wanted it to be. And a lot of these like actors that we've reached out to were available because they were home.
Right.
And I think we had a lot of success with that, because I think, people that we admire were more willing to do it. Yeah. Especially with The Crow and Child's Play and a lot of the ones that we did last May, we've had a lot of really good luck with that, and people are responding well to it. And that's how we're keeping busy with the podcast for sure. We have four episodes out right now. Rewind That Scene.
I think taking those stories too from these people, and a lot of them haven't been released yet, but movies like RoboCop, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, really grabbing these incredible different times of shooting them, and some of them almost seem more guerrilla and to go back that way. So we've tried to link up throughout the pandemic successfully without having too much close contact, and making sure, getting tested, wash hand sanitizer, making sure pizza is always available, and
Right.
shooting these little, again, PSA songs about masking up, and also like, don't talk shit behind your friend's back, and these sort of like fun social things. We just did one with Mike Felding, who plays Naboo on the Mighty Boosh, and that's been
Yeah.
a very fun sort of iPhone collab. And so it's really just about staying fun, writing a lot, try to write as much as possible, like even if you have an idea. And we're developing a lot of new ideas. But we, with Helpline, with the gas station and everything, they're slightly, the team that we do, we have sound, the DP, other friends helping out and things like that. And, those are sort of, because of there's a, 5-10 people, it's been a little bit tougher to shoot. So that's where we went right into like the audio and these short sort of social stuff. Like if we can, our project really originated, collaborating with our friends and brothers that we grew up with. And when Mike and I kept doing it, it was like the whole ethos was like, if not fun, so you're always keeping it fun, and that's like keeping that going. So if we can create a fun song with a microphone in our digital audio workstation, and then go shoot it with an a GoPro or a Canon, and have someone like we're having a good time, and it's great to. And so we've been trying to do stuff like that. Now the city is opening up back July 1st here, with like no restrictions and stuff like that, and a lot of vaccination sites right now. The Museum of Natural History is one, and they're everywhere. So it'll be fun to kind of shoot again with friends and things like that.
Yeah.
And get back out there. But it was really kind of like get home setups, try to stay creative, write as much as possible when this whole thing happened.
Yeah, I think it just forced us to write more, which was great, and just like figure out some, indoor content.
Yeah, no, believe me, we've all been doing versions of, like this semester I was teaching a Netflix class because we couldn't do screenings or anything in person. The production students have had to figure out how to shoot independently, where no one is meeting anyone else, and how do you do reverses, and they got to do it on a syllabus schedule and things like that. So it's been really tough. And then you all have the added like complication that there are now like children running around, and they don't go away during the day.
Yes.
Are they back in school or in their daycare sort of arrangement, or how's that?
So here in the city, they are doing like a sort of blended model where there's some attendance in the schools, which is great. Mike and I have the oldest child who's 7, and he goes 5 days a week right now.
Oh wow!
But when this whole started, it was like iPad, traditional like everywhere else, like remote learning, and daycare shut down. Some of them have opened up, but when this happened, it was like why spend $2,000 a month or more on childcare when like everybody's gonna be home. And luckily Mike and I do live near both of our moms. They make great chicken cutlets.
There you go.
We're able to have help with our parents, which is not everybody has that, but that was kind of interesting. I think my parents had COVID early on, so we couldn't even see them for a few months. The first thing they craved was McDonald's, and
oh god,
very interesting, just because for a while they lost like their sense of smell and felt weak and feverish, and it was just so weird. So everybody was home, we're trying to think. I see all of my other music friends doing Patreons and these unique, sort of concerts, and nobody can go to movie theaters anymore, and you feel bad for places like Alamo. And you're also doing watch things with our friends, and so with kids, it's there is a like an off button, and even if you have a good day, you might wake up at 2 a.m, and there's always fun stuff happening. Today my youngest son was joking around about putting a quarter into a cell phone, which like I think is a brilliant idea, like the old payphone days. And like, you know, there's always inspiration and kids are great. But yeah, we always try to have that balance. They've obviously been in some of our past work, you know, our families are so flexible and we're grateful for that when we need to go out and not be around, or if we have to go to LA or some film festival. Mike and I went to Slam Dance in Utah, and it was really great experience to actually go do that. And the second episode was in one of the festivals there, and just like to be able to do that, we're really just grateful and appreciative.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got one more thing to show. This is, I was saying, a more traditional doc. It explains itself very quickly at the beginning. So I think we should just jump into it, because it's going to be, it's a shift, because it's, like we were saying, it's more of a traditional documentary, but it's also tonally there for everybody. So let's do that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hey.
So that's just sweet. Like, it's just like I mean, it's still surreal and funny, but like Jonathan's parents are incredibly like nice people, it seems like, and you
yeah, that was definitely the most appealing aspect, was like his parents were supportive since he was 4 years old, and I met him in SVA, in film school, and I've always knew, he was like a director writer gone into a collector. So he was like, once he saw the Helpline stuff, he was like, if you ever want to do a thing, like, like, let me know. Like, it was always like a documentary, like, brewing behind the scenes with him, and then one day we're like, dude, we're going to do this, we got to make this happen. So it was kind of like a project that's always been looming since film school.
Cool.
Yeah.
But this also has the best letterboxing I've ever seen, that 8-bit like video game frame. I saw there was a credit at the end. When did you, like, was that in order to compensate for the low resolution of the old tapes, or?
Yeah, so I actually, I actually went through probably like, probably about like 3 or 4 VHS tapes and high 8 and 8mm tapes. And yeah, we just kind of came to the conclusion that, like, everything was 4:3 in this beautiful 16:9. So we're like, let's do like a fun, and Jonathan was like, let's do some fun frames, that's going to help, not have black bars throughout the whole thing. And we thought the 8-bit was a nice kind of like, throwback to the gaming culture.
No, like I said, it's great. I'd not seen that. Sometimes I've seen like sort of old TV frames or surrounds or things like that. But this was new and different. All right, I want to let people know that they can ask questions now, or they could have asked them all along. And I want to make sure we get to. We have a question that I should have asked early on. It's from Jane. She says I can ask it, which is, how did you come up with the name Bobo Touch?
That's a great question.
Yeah, great.
So it really just kind of it really kind of just like the Bobo side of things is like our version of a bestie. And growing up, my dad would always like, there was like Bobo the clown, like all these like things, and then that's sort of associated with like Pennywise somehow growing up, and like this like sort of like, oh, Bobo, like this like, oh, like if something is bad, that's Bobo. And really just kind of really like putting the touch on making it better, right? So it's our version of, it's kind of got these like two intervening things of like, it's our version of our besties, right? Mike and I aren't brothers, but we've been Bobo, we've been together since.
Yeah, it's like a bestie with kind of like a little bit of a negative, like Bobo the clown, things that are bad, also with our PSAs, like things that are bad is Bobo, that's like not good. So it's kind of like a double
kind of,
for us. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like, you know, our like sort of our like, you know, ethos and
Yes.
buddy sort of vibe.
Cool. So we've done an hour and a half, which has flown right by. I want to make sure that we get the answer to the question that I know I have to ask, which is what is next? What can we expect like immediately next? It doesn't have to be like between now and midnight today, because I know it's late for you all. But yeah, what's the next batch of stuff?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are working on
sleeping, being outside. Yeah, I know.
We're working on a ton of like more social short little bits that we'll be putting out, like the stuff we just did with Mike Felding from you know, the Mighty Boosh, and we'll be doing kind of these fun little, you know, ideas. And then we are writing some, you know, pilot and project script stuff for sitcom ideas. We do want to do we're like, you know, working on like we want to like knock out a feature, like
we have,
of course we have more podcast episodes.
We have like a very
it's kind of exciting. We have a lot of things that are like,
yeah, I think right now we have a lot of like very skeleton versions of like a feature. We have an animated thing that we're working on. So I think we're just trying to like really comb through it all and just kind of tighten things up. But I think we want to do an animated thing. We want to do a feature, hopefully within the next year.
Yeah,
we're just
cool. Kind of, and also mindful of like, you know, with like our mayor now finally saying July 1st everything will be open again, even though that's probably not the best idea, but you know, they have like a ton of vaccinations here, so we're just like, when things are kind of going again here too in the city, it's like even now it's amazing to go down Broadway and not bump shoulders with someone. And it's an amazing time to shoot because, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to do that with not like all the, you know, crowded tourist stuff. But yeah, I think we're, you know, we have these projects, and you know, I think as the city also opens up more and we're able to kind of be flexible, like you've seen in these other pieces, even like with Jonathan walking out in the documentary, like coming out of the subway, we shot that a few times, and the bus, the Port Authority cops came up to us, like, you know, it's been so sort of like 28 days later for a while here, and I'm sure everyone else knows wherever you're, you know, hometowns and their families are at and where you're at. And so like as things open up, it's exciting to you know, show up with cameras again.
Yeah, we're like itching to get back out there, to just go back and like get back into the field and shoot stuff, you know. We just can't wait.
Well, and people always, you know, people have been talking about what is, you know, what's it going to be like post COVID. And you know, one of the things that it strikes me that you guys bring to the table is this combination of, it's going to still be real, it's going to still be all the places that you wanted to go see, the, you know, the door of the Port Authority, you know, the whatever, an F train platform, but also it's going to be weird for years. I just feel like everywhere you turn, there's going to be, oh, right, we're doing this weird shit now. And I think that that's the stuff that you all have been like trying to pin down for a little while here. So that's great.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, they Bono just says you definitely should make another Bobo Touch Helpline episode.
Yes, well, the funny thing about Bobo Touch Helpline is that we actually do have 3 other scripts written that we never shot.
Right, cool.
So
we'll knock them out soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the pandemic. We had we wanted to do, our whole thing was like, let's make an Adult Swim,
right?
You know, 6 to 10 minute
style show.
Yeah, like short 6 episodes, just short. It doesn't need to be 10, 12 episodes, just something short, engaging, and fun, shareable. That was always our goal. So yeah, we have a bunch of scripts written. We just haven't. It was right when COVID, you know, we just haven't been able to shoot it, but we have stuff written. Yeah.
That's why I feel like where everybody, you know, like, there's certainly trauma there's certainly grieving. There's certainly weird, but there's also this like, it's like, I mean, when I was a kid, it was like Ricochet Racers. You would like get it going and then you would slam this button and then the car would shoot out. And I feel like we were all just sitting there like revved, ready to go do whatever that next thing is. So I can't wait to see that from you all. I'm going to wrap it up now, unless there's anything you want to say here. It's been great to have you here virtually.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having us. Yeah, no, I think we're just excited to keep making stuff for you, for everyone.
Yeah, and stay in touch. We're on all socials, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be, really involved with everyone tonight. And
thank you guys
to watch
thank you for watching.
Yeah, our pleasure. All right, Matt, I don't know that you need to come back, but I think you do need to be the person who ends it, because I am not officially the host here. So.
All right. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. It's really been great hearing from all of you. And thanks for moderating, JD.
Again, my pleasure.
Thank you guys.
See y'all.
All right, bye.
Have a good evening.